This is Snake. Who is this?
Hello, Snake? This is Dexter Morrington from the Tetrahedron.
The Tetrahedron? What's that? A fan convention? Say, why can't I see your face?
I don't want to ruin the illusion.
Illusion? What illusion?
Doesn't matter. Look, I'm here to talk to you.
Sorry, I don't answer calls to people I don't know.
Yes you do. You did it just now. Anyway, it was you who called me.
I didn't call you.
Yes, you did.
Where's your proof?
Look, we're doing a history video on Metal Gear.
Metal Gear?
Let me finish.
Hold on, I have another call. Hello? Colonel, is that you?
Is this Solid Snake?
Yes.
Like the Solid Snake?
Yes.
The official, real deal Solid Snake?
Yes. Now, get to the point.
I just wanted to tell you that I'm your biggest fan. I love your hair, I love your nose, I love your eyes.
Thanks for the flattery, but you need to get away from me, you freak.
Who was that? Otacon?
Some freak.
Ah, Psycho Mantis then.
Psycho Mantis. It's been a long time since I've heard that name.
Look, I feel like I'm wasting editing time here, but I was wondering if you wanted to do the opening to our newest video, Metal Gear, A Complete History.
I don't know what kind of joke this is, but I have more important things to do. Snake out.
Snake? Snake? Snake! I'd like to thank my mom for the cafeteria.
I like the thing, I like my mom.
A Metal Gear is a toothed wheel made of metal. It works with other wheels to perform a specific function. For example, the engine of a car. You got that, the other guy?
Oh, yes, I'm writing it down right now.
Good. Metal Gear also refers to a series of stealth video games created by internet troll Hideo Kojima.
Metal Gear is a highly popular series published by Konami that helped pioneer the stealth genre and introduced audiences to the cinematic video game.
This is effectively a game that feels like a movie because it has a lot of cutscenes. And oh boy, do the Metal Gear games love their cutscenes.
Oh, exactly. Remember that time with Metal Gear Solid 4? You're like, oh, I gotta go to bed early, but I'll just watch this cutscene, and then suddenly it was 2 hours long.
Yes. A lot of gamers' first entry in the series would have been Metal Gear Solid for the Sony PlayStation.
Of course, it was for me.
However, the series actually had its origins almost a decade prior with the release of Metal Gear.
Lies! You're absolutely lying to the public.
No, it's true.
No, it's not.
It is true.
No, prove it to me then.
I'll prove it to you with this video. So let's turn the gears back several years and expose the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
The series began with the release of Metal Gear on the MSX2 computer in 1987. The MSX2 was a home computer developed by Microsoft, which was mostly popular in Japan.
Metal Gear followed Solid Snake, an operative of the Special Forces unit Foxhound, who must infiltrate an enemy base to destroy Metal Gear, a walking tank capable of launching nuclear missiles from anywhere in the world.
A bit like Tiny Tank.
Well, Tiny Tank doesn't launch nuclear missiles.
You can if you collect them. From the offset, you can tell Hideo Kojima loves movies, based purely on the character of Solid Snake. The character was supposedly named after Kurt Russell's character Snake Plissken from the movie Escape from New York. Snake's likeness was also based on the actor Michael Biehn, who at the time was mostly famous for appearing in the Terminator and Aliens movies.
The game was originally developed to be a full-on action game. However, the hardware limited the number of on-screen bullets and enemies that could appear at any one time. As a result, Kojima reworked the gameplay so that the purpose was to avoid enemies rather than confront them head-on.
A bit like Pac-Man.
Yes, I mean arguably Pac-Man was actually the very first stealth action game.
For the gameplay, Kojima was inspired by the film The Great Escape, which was also the inspiration for the animated classic Chicken Run. Funnily enough, the Chicken Run tie-in game would clearly be inspired by Metal Gear Solid, effectively making the whole thing go full circle. In fact, there's even a little FMV Easter egg in the game, making a clear nod to MGS.
No chicken escaped from Tweedy's farm!
Several months later, a Famicom version of Metal Gear was released. This version was not handled by Kojima, but rather by another division at Konami, who had access to the original game's source code. The main difference was that it started in a jungle and that the Metal Gear final boss was replaced by a supercomputer. These changes made Kojima publicly disown the game, stating it deserved to be flung into the fires of Mount Erebus.
Dexter, we made that joke in the previous video.
Did we?
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember the last video.
Oh, you were sick and you were vomiting everywhere. I mean, the top fighting games we think should happen, top crossover fighting games. This is an Easter egg nod!
The Famicom version of Metal Gear would end up getting released overseas, appearing on the Nintendo Entertainment System in the States in 1988.
I still don't believe you with this origin story you're telling me.
We're showing you gameplay on screen right now.
I think you made this.
This is all genuine.
Nope, I think you made this.
It's public knowledge. Look it up.
No, I think you made this.
Google search it.
Upon release, the MSX version received positive reviews, with many critics being impressed with the deep and addictive gameplay. The NES version, on the other hand, received mixed reviews, with many critics finding the controls and gameplay quite frustrating. They also said the graphics were subpar, a bit like the special effects in the Lawnmower Man.
Despite the mixed response, the game was a financial success, with the NES version selling over 1 million units in the US alone. The MSX version sold well too, making the prospect of a sequel a no-brainer.
I still don't believe you.
The success of both versions led to the creation of two entirely different sequels, one for the NES and the other for the MSX2. The NES version was released first in the summer of 1990, titled Snake's Revenge. This version was made with no involvement from Hideo Kojima. Instead, it was developed by a completely different team, specifically for the Western market. That's white. That's white.
That's white.
That's
Dr.
right.
White.
The Wild West market. They were waiting.
Snake's Revenge was similar to the previous installment, following Snake as he infiltrated an enemy base to destroy a new model of Metal Gear.
Wait a minute, Snake's Revenge? Isn't this that kind of game on the mobile phones, the Snakes?
No, that's Snake 2.
I'm sure it's called Snake's Revenge. I think, again, you're making this stuff up.
The gameplay's on screen, you can Google it, it's all there. While most of the gameplay was from a top-down perspective, there were also new side view sections, where players walked from left to right, rather than up, down, and all around.
While reviews at the time were pretty scarce, modern reviews consider the game pretty average. Kojima himself seems to sway back and forth on his opinion on the game. In 1999, he said he enjoyed the game, feeling it was faithful to the Metal Gear concept. However, in 2009, he called it a crappy game.
Snake's Revenge could have been the start of an alternate timeline that ran in conjunction with Kojima's vision. However, he made sure that didn't happen, cutting off the snake's head before it had a chance to grow.
Kojima's official sequel will be released later that summer, titled Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake. The game once again follows Snake as he infiltrates Zanzibar Land, a heavily guarded territory, to rescue a kidnapped scientist and destroy a revised version of Metal Gear.
Revised?
The storyline was considerably more complex than the previous installment, dealing with heavy themes like the nature of war and the spread of nuclear weapons. This time round, Snake's likeness was inspired by actor Mel Gibson, who would go on to voice Rocky Rhodes in Chicken Run, once again making those Metal Gear and Chicken Run connections all the more apparent.
Who knew? Chicken Run and Metal Gear are very connected.
Yeah.
This complexity also extended to the gameplay. In the previous game, enemies were limited to patrolling only one screen. However, now, they could patrol across multiple screens. Enemies also had a wider field of vision and could even detect sounds emitted from the player, like if you were farting or belching. Snake could also now crouch and crawl, allowing him to be extra sneaky.
Upon release, the game was met with critical acclaim. Many critics praised the improved gameplay and gripping storyline, although some found the game's focus on backtracking and keycard acquisitions somewhat repetitive. The game was another commercial success.
Despite the success of Metal Gear 2, the series went on hiatus for several years as Kojima created other video games like Policenauts, not to be confused with Psychonauts. Would he ever return to the Metal Gear series? Find out after the break.
目標は最終兵器メタルギア。ファミコン用カセットメタルギア発売中。
Konami.
Now it's time for the other guy's trivia! So, which actor was used for the likeness of Solid Snake? Was it A. Michael Biehn, B. Mel Gibson, or C. both actors? If you said C, both actors, you are wrong. There is no actor under the name both actors. The correct answer is A. Michael Biehn and B. Mel Gibson.
Kojima started planning the third installment of the Metal Gear series in 1994 for the 3DO video game console. However, his console of choice changed when he laid his eyes on the Sony PlayStation and instantly fell in love.
Metal Gear Solid released in 1998 with gamers everywhere chomping at the bit to get their hands on it. You see, prior to the game's release, Metal Gear Solid had a showing at E3 1997, which generated strong Buzz Lightyears for its stealth-based gameplay and cinematic presentation. Did the final game live up to the pre-release hype? Well, yes. Yes, it did. But more on that later.
The game once again followed Solid Snake, who must infiltrate a nuclear weapons facility to stop the now rogue Foxhound from using the new Metal Gear Rex to launch a nuclear strike. Along the way, Snake befriends and fights various iconic characters, including love interest Meryl, who is actually from Policenauts, anime nerd Otacon, evil twin Liquid Snake, sadist Revolver Ocelot, dog-loving Sniper Wolf, mind-reading Psycho Mantis, and of course, Gray Fox, the kick-ass ninja and second cousin of Fox McCloud. Honestly, what a lineup of iconic characters.
Yeah, and Gray Fox was also voiced by Rob Paulson in the remake. The game's biggest talking point was its unique cinematic presentation. Everyone who played it was like, wow, it's like a movie! The story was complex, tackling serious themes about the nature of war and the threat of nuclear weapons. Basically the same themes in Metal Gear 2. The game featured full voice acting with screenwriter David Hayter voicing the title hero.
The game is also littered with many fourth wall breaking moments. This includes a bit when Psycho Mantis reads your memory card, or another when the Colonel asks you to look at the back of the package.
Oh, that part had me stunned for 11 years.
11 years?
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you tell us you were stuck on it?
I didn't know you existed.
Metal Gear Solid's gameplay was reminiscent of Metal Gear 2, with player movement, enemy behavior, and the game's camera being almost identical. Except now it was in 3D. With a fully 3D world at their disposal, there was no limit to what the developers could do. They were literally bursting with ideas. This included a first-person view while crawling through vents, first-person aiming while using certain weapons, and a more dynamic camera when sneaking past guards.
Anything else?
Off the top of my head, no.
Metal Gear Solid was released to critical acclaim, with many critics praising its gameplay, storyline, and high production values. Several critics called it the best video game ever made, while others cited it as a reason to get a PlayStation. Take that, Crash Bandicoot. However, GameSpot was more critical of the game, saying that if Kojima wants to make cinematic video games, he should just be making movies.
The game went on to sell over 6 million copies, putting Kojima on the map and making Metal Gear Solid a bankable franchise.
And I'm not surprised, as this game is truly iconic and worth the praise.
Even funny man Dara O'Brien mentioned it in his stand-up. Apologies if I mispronounced his name.
There's a game called Metal Gear Solid where you play a character called Snake. Yes.
And when Snake dies, the camera pulls cinematically up from above him, and the voice of the man Snake has been speaking to on his comms unit goes, Snake, Snake, Snake!
I don't find that guy funny. He gives me bad diarrhea.
An expanded edition of the game called Metal Gear Solid Integral was released in Japan in 1999. This edition included additional content found in the American and European versions, as well as 300 VR missions.
I never understood what the VR standed for.
Virtual reality.
What?
The VR missions were divided into several categories, which tested the player's sneaking, shooting, and combat skills. You could even play as Gray Fox and slice up baddies. The bonus missions would end up getting released overseas as a standalone game called Metal Gear Solid VR Missions in America. I believe it was called Metal Gear Solid Special Missions or something in the Europe.
I can't remember, but I do remember the box.
I see it in Games Exchange all the time, and I always say, should I buy this? Should I buy this? And I always don't buy it.
In 2000, Metal Gear jumped onto the Game Boy Color with the... Jumped.
What's wrong with that?
In 2000, Metal Gear sneaked onto the Game Boy Color with the release of Metal Gear Solid Ghost, Babel.
Sneaked is better than jumped, you're right.
Yeah, why did you put jumped? That doesn't make any sense. Does Snake ever jump?
He does in Smash Bros.
He hangs off ledges in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Hello, Smash Bros.
In the West, the game was simply called Metal Gear Solid.
Because that's what the Wild West Cowboys liked.
Yes, although despite the identical name, the game was not an adaptation of the PlayStation game, but rather its own story set in an alternate timeline. So it looks like Kojima doesn't mind alternate timelines as long as he is involved in some capacity.
Hello, Smash Bros.
Ghost Babel returned to the 2D overhead view of Metal Gear 2. However, this time the screen scrolls when the player moves through an area. On top of that, the game adopted a level-based approach, featuring 13 stages rather than one large setting. Upon release, the game received critical acclaim, with IGN giving it a perfect 10 out of 10. Many critics thought the game successfully translated the PlayStation original onto the little handheld, while others thought it was a good throwback to the MSX2 entries.
Which I still don't think exists. I think you guys are lying. There is no MX.
You're gonna have to Google this recording.
But you can't trust Google either with all this misinformation and the disinformation. You can't trust anything anymore.
With Metal Gear Solid being a big blockbuster behemoth, it was little surprise that Kojima got to work on a sequel for the PlayStation 2. During development, various trailers were shown featuring Solid Snake interacting with new and old faces, including...
Gray Fox?
Gray Fox?
What?
Oh
my god, he's back! Hey!
Fans were so excited they couldn't wait to get their hands on the game and play Solid Snake in a brand new adventure.
In 2001, the anticipation came to an end when Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty was finally released. The game begins with Snake infiltrating a tanker to uncover more information on the new Metal Gear Ray.
He does a lot of that, Snake. A lot of infiltrating.
Here's a question. Why didn't they just call it Metal Gear Ray?
Well, then you would have to call Metal Gear Solid Metal Gear Rex. The opening level introduced new gameplay mechanics like the ability to aim in first person, hang over railings, and hide enemy bodies in lockers. On top of that, enemies were now smarter, radioing in when a guard goes missing or working in squads to catch the player when spotted. It truly was an exciting opening, getting fans pumped for the rest of the game. Well, that was until the tanker chapter ends and Snake is replaced by new protagonist, Raiden. That's right, Kojima pulled the old bait and switch and trolled gamers all over the world.
While there was a core group of fans who were deeply upset by this, others found it to be important to the game's overarching themes, which included the exploration of memes.
With meme!
In all seriousness, the story of Metal Gear Solid 2 is dense, exploring a wide range of deep philosophical topics that have become more important in our current climate of fake news and post-truth politics. You want us to get into it? We're not a wisecrack video. We don't do deep discussions. We keep it nice and simple. We do fluff pieces. And other guy, this is probably why you don't trust the fact there was a Metal Gear and a Metal Gear 2, because you think it's fake news.
Yes, of course. Yeah, they don't exist. They don't exist. I think someone made it I think it's a lie. There was no other games before Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1.
Supposedly, Raiden was chosen as the protagonist in order to justify having another in-game tutorial, as well as to appeal to female gamers who weren't keen on Snake.
Wait, what?
After all, Snake wasn't very popular with the ladies, as seen in this cutscene from the first Metal Gear Solid.
I never forget a lady.
So there's something you like about me, huh?
Yeah, you've got a great butt.
Oh, I see. First it's my eyes, now it's my butt. What's next?
On the battlefield, you never think about what's next.
You can see why Meryl decides to not stay with him after Metal Gear Solid 1, because he's a f***ing prick!
No, it's because he's a snake.
Yeah.
Like its predecessor, Metal Gear Solid 2 received critical acclaim with praise towards its graphics, which everyone thought looked realistic.
I remember at the time we were like, wow, he looks like a real human being, and now it's like, he looks like a cartoon.
Gameplay and sound were also highly praised. Speaking of sound, the game featured a now iconic theme tune composed by Harry Gregson Williams, who actually wrote the music for Chicken Run, alongside John Powell. Once again, the Chicken Run Metal Gear connection remains alive and well.
The most divisive element of the game was the storyline, which many critics thought was incomprehensible and disrupted the gameplay too much. However, those critics have now recognized the story is actually good, and they were all wrong, with some referring to it as the first example of a postmodern video game. It would go on to sell over 7 million copies.
Oh no. No, you said no, not again!
Oh.
Why does this happen?
Other guy! Snake and Raiden would next appear as unlockable characters in the video game Evolution Skateboarding, released in 2002.
What?
No, this is legit. You can now play as Snake riding a skateboard, performing various tricks and maneuvers.
See, this is why I don't believe you. All these games of Metal Gear don't sound right to me.
Here's the gameplay. I'm not making this up.
In the same year, an expanded version of Metal Gear Solid 2, titled Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, was released as a timed Xbox exclusive, followed by a release on the PlayStation 2 and PC.
Nothing for the GameCube, unfortunately.
No, but they got the lovely twin snakes.
Hey, don't jump ahead.
Whoops.
Substance truly did live up to its name, featuring 350 VR missions and 150 alternative missions set in areas from the main game.
And what's the main game called?
Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty.
No!
There were also 5 additional Snake Tales, story-based missions where players could finally play Snake in areas previously exclusive to Raiden.
Yeah, Snake Tales sounds like a colorful platformer starring Snake, a bit like the original Conker's Bad Fur
A bit
Day.
like Snake Pass. Anyway, this was done to appease fans who were disappointed Snake was relegated to the tanker chapter in the original game. Speaking of, Substance featured the original Metal Gear Solid 2 in its entirety. To top things off, the PS2 version had a skateboarding minigame based on Evolution Skateboarding, which made it one meaty package. In fact, if video games were burgers, this would be the Colossal Sasquatch.
Ready, set, go!
I'm gonna cut it into 6 portions. I'm gonna try to do 1 portion every 10 minutes.
In 2003, Solid Snake would appear as a playable fighter in DreamMix TV World Fighters, alongside Bomberman and Optimus Prime. This is a fighting game in a similar vein to Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. Series, where players jump around and beat each other up.
Again, I do not believe this. Show me the footage.
Speaking of Nintendo, Snake's next adventure will be heading to the GameCube, with a remake of the greatest game of all time.
Would it deliver the goods, and would Kojima consider it canon? Find out after the
Jump!
It's an extremely sensitive covert operation. You'll be one man against an entire squad of high-tech special ops. If you want to survive, you gotta have brains. You have to be in peak physical condition. The fate of the free world is in your hands, soldier. Failure is not an option.
Sir, aren't these tests kind of easy?
Suicide mission.
Metal Gear Solid.
PlayStation. The other guy's trivia! We're back again. Why did Kojima make Raiden the protagonist of Metal Gear Solid 2? Is it A, to appeal to female gamers, B, to troll the fans, or C, to to justify having in-game tutorials. If you said A or C, you are wrong. The correct answer is B. Kojima is always trolling the fans, and A and C are examples of this.
2004 would prove to be a busy year for the Metal Gear series, starting off with Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. The game was developed by Silicon Knights, who created the survival horror game Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem.
And as you know, we're big fans. Check out our little commercial we made a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Featuring Dexter Morton as the scared
Featuring
gamer.
me, you can see me in live action. Considering that game's love for breaking the fourth wall, they were a perfect fit for remaking Metal Gear Solid.
The game offered improved graphics and enhanced gameplay, incorporating many of the elements first introduced in Metal Gear Solid 2. This included the first-person aiming and smarter enemy soldiers. You can also shoot Yoshi.
While Silicon Knights developed the bulk of the game, the cutscenes were directed by Ryuhei Kitamura, a Japanese filmmaker known for his over-the-top fight choreography, as featured in films like Versus. This resulted in cinematics where Snake jumps on a missile and throws a grenade through a tank's cannon, which completely clashed with the more grounded gameplay. Kitamura originally made the cutscenes look identical to the original Metal Gear Solid. However, after Kojima watched them, he insisted the director redo them in his well-known action style. This appeared to be an attempt from Kojima to derail the project and prevent it from reaching the acclaim of his games.
Despite the over-the-top cutscenes, the Twin Snakes went on to receive positive reviews, with critics enjoying the new graphics and faithful retelling of the Metal. However, some found the new gameplay features problematic because the level design remained unchanged, making it too easy.
In the summer, Solid Snake appeared as a cameo in Boktai 2 Solar Boy Django as a mysterious character called ? Supposedly, this is him, but honestly, he looks nothing like Snake.
I still think this is a lie.
Later that year, the third installment of the Metal Gear Solid series was released, titled Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. And no, it wasn't a food-based game. It was an actual Metal Gear Solid stealth game in the forest.
This time round, the story was set in the 60s and followed Naked Snake as he attempted to rescue Russian scientist Sokolov and stop the Shagohod, the OG Metal Gear. Even though Naked Snake is actually a new character, he looks and sounds identical to Solid Snake, even being voiced by David Hayter.
And where's his clothes?
He does wear clothes.
Also, I have a question, Dexter Morrington. What did OG stand for?
The original.
Oh.
The game featured a new jungle setting, which I already explained earlier, which proved problematic as it meant creating realistic weather patterns and wildlife behavior. However, with the jungle setting came new gameplay options, like the ability to wear camouflage to blend into your surroundings. On top of that, Snake has a stamina bar that constantly depletes, requiring him to hunt animals and collect plants to concoct medicine and food to stay alive. Breath of the Wild, eat your heart out.
In many ways, Metal Gear Solid 3 harkened back to the first Metal Gear Solid, telling a simpler story with another cast of memorable characters. One such character is The End, an old sniper who you fight over long range in a dense part of the jungle. The battle can go on for hours, or you can just save and quit during the fight, reboot the game in a week, and find he's died of old age.
Upon release, the game was critically acclaimed. Many critics declared it better than Metal Gear Solid 2, being pleased with the new protagonist and finding the plot less intrusive.
Intrusive.
Oh, intrusive. Sorry.
Yes.
My bad.
That's right.
The game's emotional ending was given particular praise, with gamers across the world crying their eyes out like a Studio Ghibli character.
She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land. She was a real hero. She was a true patriot.
Despite this, some thought the script was awkward in places and that the camouflage system wasn't particularly interesting. It went on to sell over 4 million copies, so even though it was better received than MGS2, it didn't sell as well, did it? So MGS2's better game.
If you thought that was the last Metal Gear game released in 2004, you would be mistaken, because in December, a new entry was released for the PSP titled Metal Gear Acid. The game was a departure from the main series of stealth-based gameplay, and instead being turned into a turn-based strategy game, where players use trading cards to control their characters.
I didn't like this one.
The title itself is actually an acronym for Active Command Intelligence Duel, in reference to the game's turn-based card gameplay. The game also features a new character in the form of Taliko Friedman, a Japanese-American member of the FBI. Upon release, the game was met with positive reviews and was Kojima and Knuckles approved. In 2005, an expanded version of Metal Gear Solid 3 was released, titled Metal Gear Solid 3
This was the first game in the series to be developed under the Kojima Productions banner.
The biggest change in this version was the implementation of a fully controllable camera, allowing players to freely move it around without it being restricted to a top-down perspective. The game also included ports of the first 2 MSX Metal Gear games, as well as online multiplayer for up to 8 players.
Wait, what? Online multiplayer?
You got online, baby!
Oh my gosh, let's just set up and bring out the snakes! Bizarrely, the game featured the monkeys from Ape Escape, appearing in a minigame called Snake vs. Monkey. In this minigame, players have to explore the environment and find the monkeys, which is reminiscent of the gameplay from the Ape Escape series. So, that goes to one question. Is the Snakes and Metal Gear in the same universe?
Just to clarify though, that this minigame actually appeared in the European version of Snake Eater. However, we chose to talk about it now as it's a good segue into Ape Escape 3.
But still, it doesn't answer my question. Are they in the same universe?
No, because it's a minigame. Anyway, the reason why we're talking about Ape Escape 3, because within that game is a minigame titled Metal Gear Solid Snake Escape. This surprisingly deep minigame follows Peepo Snake, who is sent on a mission to rescue the real Snake and destroy a knockoff Metal Gear.
The game is faithful to the gameplay of Metal Gear, with players having to sneak around and avoid guards. The control scheme, though, is similar to Ape Escape, with most of the actions being mapped to the right analog stick. Anyway, this is a pretty neat minigame, and I recommend you check it out, even if the crossover is as strange as this bit from Tom and Jerry.
In me power.
In the same year, a sequel to Metal Gear Acid was released, called Metal Gear Acid 2. However, because the other guy absolutely despises this game, we're going to quickly move on and talk about Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, released in 2006.
No, don't talk about that one either. I hate that one too.
Portable Ops was also released for the PSP, but rather than be another turn-based strategy game, it returned to the series' stealth-based roots. The game itself was a direct sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3, taking place in the 1970s, and following Naked Snake as he attempts to stop the Renegade Fox.
While the core gameplay was similar to Metal Gear Solid 3, the game introduced the Comrade system, where players had to recruit soldiers to form a team of trained specialists.
Like Bomberman.
Yes, Before each mission, players must put together a 4-man squad and use each one to complete various objectives.
Again, like Bomberman.
Despite the game not being written or directed by Hideo Kojima, he still considers it to be canon within the Metal Gear timeline. Well, I mean, that's what he said at the time, although he has consistently changed his mind over the years. A bit like Antoine during Snively's interrogation in the classic episode from Sonic SatAM.
Are you going to talk?
Yes, no, 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 yes.
The game received positive reviews, with many critics stating this is what Metal Gear Solid fans had been waiting for since the PlayStation Portable was released. A standalone expansion of the game titled Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops Plus was released a year later, which featured new items, maps, game modes, and Snake in a tutu suit.
What's a tutu suit? In 2008, the Metal Gear series jumped to mobile phones with the release of Metal Gear Solid Mobile. It was first announced a year earlier at the Metal Gear 20th Anniversary Party to celebrate the series' 20-year history. Set between Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, the game follows Snake as he infiltrates another facility to rescue a scientist named Victoria Reed. Gameplay is classic Metal Gear Solid, however it also used some of the phone's features for new gameplay twists. For example, players could use the phone's camera to photograph real-world environments and use them as camouflage for Snake's suit. Reviews were generally positive.
So wait, I could take a picture of you and he'll camouflage as you?
Yeah, but I'll be like really bad quality.
During this time, Hideo Kojima was hard at work on the supposedly final installment of the Metal Gear series, Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots. Set for release on the PlayStation 3, would Metal Gear Solid 4 tie the loose ends and leave fans satisfied? Find out after this.
Metal Gear Solid 3.
Trivia time! Which video game makes the tetrahedron VG most thirsty? Is it A, Roswell McQueen Firefighter Extreme, B, Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception, or C, Super Mario Sunshine? If you said C, then congratulations! You are right! You are either a true tetrahedron fan, or you just got lucky.
2008 saw the release of Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots, the true follow-up to Metal Gear Solid 2. This time round, Snake has experienced accelerated aging and has become Old Snake, leaving him...
You.
Anyway, this leaves him with only 1 year to live.
Oh no. Dexter, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm fine. As time is short, Snake has to complete his bucket list, which involves defeating Revolver Ocelot, who is now controlled by Liquid Snake, saying farewell to old friends like Otacon and Meryl, and of course reuniting with Tim Robbins on the beach.
Metal Gear Solid 4 had a meaty story, a result of trying to tie up all the loose ends and leaving fans completely satisfied. This led to many moments of pure fan service, like Raiden being a kick-ass ninja and fighting a bunch of geckos, yes, robots, not gexes, or when Metal Gear Rex and Ray duke it out in Shadow Moses, the setting of the first Metal Gear Solid.
It was like a kaiju movie. It was like Godzilla. In fact, the whole reason Metal Gear Solid 4 started development was due to fan demand. Kojima actually had no interest in producing a follow-up to Metal Gear Solid 2, preferring to leave the dangling plot threads to the player. He reluctantly returned to direct a fourth installment after receiving death threats from hardcore fans, who loved him so much they wanted to kill him, which of course makes a load of sense.
That's how it works in the fan base.
You always want to kill the thing you love. The gameplay of the series was a culmination of all the elements from previous games. This included the camouflage and 3D camera from Subsistence.
You just can't say it.
And pretty much everything else from Metal Gear Solid 2 prior. The game incorporated an over-the-shoulder view when aiming to allow for smoother gunplay.
Metal Gear Solid 4 also included an online multiplayer component called Metal Gear Online, which allowed up to 16 players to battle it out. To be honest, we never got round to playing online, mainly because you had to use a torrent to download it, which by the time we got round to it, had no seeders. Yes, it took us that long to download.
Yeah, well anyway, we heard it was good. Like prior Metal Gear Solid games, anticipation for the game was through the roof. When the worldwide release date of June 12th was finally unveiled, fans were ready to burst into their local game stores, like the Christmas rush in Jingle All the Way.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
The game was another critical smash hit, receiving perfect scores from many publications. Several critics called it the most technically impressive video game ever made, while others thought it was a fitting conclusion to the series. Despite this, some thought the story was confusing at times and that it would not convert the unconverted. The game went on to sell 6 million copies, and since its release, people kinda don't talk about it.
In the same year, Solid Snake would appear as a playable fighter in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, after Kojima begged Nintendo to include him in Smash Bros. Melee. Snake would also appear as a playable character in the DS sports game New International Track and Field. Didn't it have Bomberman as well?
I don't think so, but it did have Frogger.
Of course! Whatever happened to Frogger?
He's on our comment section. Later that year, a Metal Gear Solid themed level kit was included in Sony's 2D platformer Little Big Planet. The level kit included 5 Metal Gear Solid themed levels, which introduced a new item known as the Paintinator gun. Various Metal Gear Solid costumes were also released for the game. I actually remember the DLC.
Yes,
yeah, I completely forgot about it until I had to script this video.
In 2009, Metal Gear returned to mobiles with the release of Metal Gear Solid Touch for the iOS. Unfortunately, this was not a petting game where you have to look after a frail, aging Snake. Instead, it was an arcade shoot-'em-up which saw players blast through environments and enemies from Metal Gear Solid 4. Reception was fairly average, with critics saying it was a decent shooter, but not really a Metal Gear game, and does not lay a finger on Psychonauts.
Next up, the series would make a cameo appearance in the DS puzzle games Scribblenauts and Super Scribblenauts. If you type in Solid Snake, Old Snake, or Big Boss, they would appear in the game to help the player. However, they were only available in the Japanese version, as Konami published the game in Japan. In the West, it was published by Warner Brothers.
So instead, they got Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. After Metal Gear Solid 4, Kojima stated he was done with the series. However, this turned out to be a lie because in 2010 he released Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker for the PSP. The game was a continuation from Metal Gear Solid 3, following Snake as he runs his own mercenary unit to stop a terrorist threat in the Costa Rica.
The game itself is actually divided into 2 gameplay modes. The first is Mission Mode, which is a hodgepodge of features from previous Metal Gear games.
Hodgepodge? Isn't that a character name?
No.
I'm sure there's a character called Hodgepodge.
This includes the soldier recruitment from Portable Ops, the over-the-shoulder aiming of Metal Gear Solid 4, and the dancing from Saludos Amigos. The second mode is called Mother Base. In this mode, players manage their recruited soldiers, ensuring they are well fed and morale is kept high.
Upon release, the game received critical acclaim, with many critics saying it takes the best elements from every Metal Gear game and combines it into one wholesome package. Despite the praise and strong sales in Japan, the game would underperform overseas. Analysts blamed this on the PSP being unpopular outside of Japan.
And I don't blame them.
Nonetheless, Peace Walker would get a second chance when it was packaged in a Metal Gear Solid HD collection released in 2011. Alongside the game, the collection also included remaster versions of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. The Vita version of the game only included Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 due to Peace Walker being available only on the PlayStation Store.
Trivia time with the other guy.
No, it's too soon.
Oh.
The following year, Metal Gear Solid 3 was re-released again, this time on the Nintendo 3DS. Titled Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D, this was a port of Metal Gear Solid 3 that provided stereoscopic 3D graphics, modified controls, and, well, to be honest, that was about it. Reviews were generally positive, with critics feeling it was a decent port. However, many found the controls clunky, making for a frustrating gameplay experience. These issues were partially rectified when Nintendo released the Circle Pad Pro, which allowed for dual pad support, although adding it to your 3DS made it look hideous, like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
You would think there'd be nothing more wrong with me, wouldn't you? But I'm deaf too. It's horrible.
Later that year, Metal Gear returned to mobile phones with the release of Metal Gear Solid Social Ops. This was a free-to-play game with gameplay reminiscent of the Metal Gear Acid. Reminiscent of the Metal Gear Acid. The game included co-op and versus gameplay, which helped it live up to the social part of its title. As of January 2014, the game's servers have been shut down, so no more social play for you.
And no more social play for you.
No!
Several years prior, at E3 2009, Kojima unveiled a new entry in the series titled Metal Gear Solid Rising, a game starring Raiden in his cyborg ninja form. Kojima Productions would be developing the game, with Kojima himself serving as an executive producer. This was because he had his hands full with Peace Walker.
Oh. The following year, E3 2010, actual gameplay was shown, featuring a ton of bloody violence that would make a Tarantino blush.
A Tarantino?
Yes.
What is he, a type of person?
Yes.
Was he a creature? Look, it's a Tarantino.
I'm shutting you down.
The game showed a lot of potential and fans were very excited. However, later that year, the studio was struggling to design a whole game around the cutting mechanic and decided to quietly cancel it.
I mean, they could have just produced like 2 hours of gameplay and 9 hours of cutscenes and everyone would have been fine with it.
Look out!
Ow!
However, the game came back from the dead when Kojima asked Platinum Games if they wanted to restart the project. Platinum said no, but after 5 months of thinking about it, they then said, yeah, why not? And the game was released in 2013 under the new name Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Platinum's version moved away from the more grounded gameplay seen in the E3 trailer. Instead, it was re-envisioned as a hack and slasher in the vein of Bayonetta. The free slicing that featured in the old trailer still remained, allowing players to cut at will. So you can like hit a bad guy and you can chop it up into little bits.
And that got players excited, because deep down, that's all us people want to do.
We're all a bunch of psychopaths.
To help promote Metal Gear Rising, Raiden appeared as a playable fighter in Sony's PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale in 2012.
He was actually my go-to character. That was until Zeus and Isaac came to the game, and to be honest, we just stopped playing it.
We did, yes.
Because they were garbage. Despite the change of developers, Metal Gear Rising was released to positive reviews. Many critics enjoyed the combat, particularly the cutting system, which allowed players to cut enemies and environments into tiny little pieces. It sold over 1 million copies.
And again, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, slicing people up, well, you gotta question your state of mind. That's why I like my colorful platformers, just saving the day and...
You like jumping on people's heads and squishing them with your own body weight. That's disgusting.
With Peace Walker and Revengeance out of the door, what was next for the Metal Gear series? Would there be a Metal Gear Solid 5 developed by Hideo Kojima? Find out very soon.
今から小テストを始めたいと思います。またテストか。ちょっと。何？
俺さ、ずっと前から好きで、だから俺と付き合ってほしい。ちょっと待った。僕と段ボールに入ってください。段ボールこっちです。俺？
メタメタにハマるメタルギアソリッドピースウォーカー。
やべえ。
Yippee! It's trivia time with the other guy. In Metal Gear Solid 4, which chapter does Tim Robinson first appear in? Is it A, Chapter 2, B, Chapter 4, or C, Chapter 5? If you said A, B, or C, you are wrong. The correct answer is D, none of the above.
In the summer of 2013, Kojima released Metal Gear Solid: The Legacy Collection, a compilation of all the mainline Metal Gear games exclusively for the PlayStation 3. I actually want this, so when it's Christmas or my birthday, please get me this. This was a truly marvelous collection, which included Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid plus the VR missions, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 4, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. I mean, talk about a collection.
That's a great collection, hence why the Legacy Collection.
If you wanted to know what Kojima considers the definitive Metal Gear games, then this is it. Everything else, forget it. It's garbage. Twin Snakes, Portable Ops, Ghost Babel, Say Bye Bye, Snake's Revenge, that one can definitely go. Anyway, reviews were rightfully positive, with many critics calling it one of the best collection games to date.
With the release of Legacy Collection, it appeared that Kojima was effectively calling it a day on the Metal Gear series. However, you would be wrong to think that, because in 2014, Kojima released Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes.
Set in 1975 after the events of Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes follows Naked Snake as he infiltrates an enemy camp to rescue an agent named Paz and a child soldier named Chico. Yep, you heard that right, a child soldier. You see, Kojima was hoping to tackle more taboo and mature themes with the latest installment, which included children committing violence, sexual violence, and, well, violence in general. Did Kojima succeed? The answer is no.
The game made use of the brand new Fox engine, which started development after the release of Metal Gear Solid 4. The engine was designed to shorten the development time of multi-platform games, as well as provide super realistic graphics. I mean, look at this lighting demo! Can you tell the difference?
What's real? What's fake? This is what Metal Gear Solid 2 was all about, and why the other guy is so paranoid.
I can't tell what's realistic anymore.
The game continued the stealth action of the previous entries. However, now it was in an open world environment, giving players more choice in how they completed the game's missions. Despite the enhancements in gameplay, many critics thought the game was too short and didn't justify its price tag.
Although it turns out Ground Zeroes was supposed to be the prologue level for the rest of Metal Gear Solid 5. However, because development of the game was taking forever, Kojima decided to release the opening level on its own to keep fans occupied. And to be fair, get some much needed moolah!
A year later, in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain was released to the world. Set 9 years after Ground Zeroes, the game follows Snake, now known as Venom Snake.
Venom? He has the symbiote?
No, it's not related to Spider-Man. Anyway, it follows Venom Snake, not related to Spider-Man, as he sets out to get revenge on the people who almost killed him in the previous entry, the prologue.
But if you didn't play that, you wouldn't know!
Metal Gear Solid 5 ended up being quite a controversial new installment for a number of reasons. Firstly was the change of casting for Snake. In all the previous games, Snake was voiced by David Hayter. However, with Metal Gear Solid 5, Snake was instead performed by actor Kiefer Sutherland.
The reason behind the change was that Kojima wanted an actor who could genuinely convey both the facial and vocal qualities of a man in his 40s. Although the truth is, Kojima had been wanting to get rid of Hayter for ages. For example, in Metal Gear Solid 3, Kojima wanted Kurt Russell to play Snake. However, he refused. Speaking about his meetings with Kojima in a future interview, Russell said,
"He's just such an enormous ass. And there's nothing I could ever say to him. I could never get through to him. He's on his own little thing, and he's going to find out that it's going to end. This ride's going to end, and it's a shame. It's too bad. It's because, as I said, he has some talent."
The next controversial thing about Metal Gear Solid 5 was the introduction of a new character called Quiet, a female sniper who literally wanders around half naked. Her overly sexualized design initially caused many to roll their eyes. Kojima would defend the character, saying her appearance was justified by the game's story. However, once gamers had context, many still thought her appearance was unwarranted and juvenile. The final bit of controversy was actually going on behind the scenes between Kojima and Konami. During the game's development, Konami announced a corporate restructuring, which was followed by Kojima being removed from all the marketing for Metal Gear Solid 5. Normally the game says a Hideo Kojima game, but now it said nothing. It just said Metal Gear Solid 5. Screw Kojima.
It was reported that the senior staff at Kojima Productions were now being treated as contractors rather than permanent employees. Kojima made it clear that he would complete Metal Gear Solid 5. However, this would now be his last Metal Gear game.
The falling out between Kojima and Konami seemed to affect the content of the game, with a third chapter in the game's story supposedly being completely cut. Kojima has not confirmed or denied if Chapter 3 was actually cut from the game.
But again, you can't trust him. He's a troll.
As a result of this, many critics thought Metal Gear Solid 5 was released unfinished, possibly to hit its scheduled release date. Others thought the unfinished nature was deliberate, effectively showing that Kojima was passing ownership of the Metal Gear series to the player.
Regardless of this, the game went on to receive critical acclaim, earning perfect scores from across the board. Critics were impressed with the gameplay mechanics and open-ended missions, which allowed players to complete objectives whichever way they wanted. Some criticism was aimed at the game's story, which some felt was incomprehensible if you've never played previous entries. But it did still sell 6 million copies.
It's all this, I mean, everyone keeps describing his stories as dense and incomprehensible and all this stuff. I mean, why does everyone love the story so much if they don't make any goddamn sense? With the release of Metal Gear Solid 5, Kojima departed from Konami and the Metal Gear series. While he would go on to produce the Amazon Prime simulation game Death Stranding, Konami would continue the Metal Gear series without Kojima's involvement.
In 2018, Konami released Metal Gear Survive, taking place between Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. The game follows the captain, a soldier who enters a parallel dimension filled with zombie-like creatures. As you can tell from the plot, this game was clearly not handled by Kojima. He would have been like,
"That's not how Metal Gear works."
Metal Gear Survive was an action-adventure survival game with tower defense elements, completely detached from the stealth gameplay the series was known for. Players must forage for food and water to survive a world covered in the dust, a mysterious toxic cloud that obstructs your vision and messes up your oxygen.
These radical changes led to the game receiving mixed reviews upon release. Critics thought the setting and gameplay were generic, while others complained at how the game reused assets from Metal Gear Solid 5. Konami never released the sales figures for the game. However, many assumed it underperformed.
Metal Gear Survive is currently the last Metal Gear game to have been released. However, that hasn't stopped elements of the series appearing in other video games. In an update for Super Bomberman R, players could play as Raiden, Solid Snake, or Naked Snake, redesigned as Bomberman characters. There is also a mother-based stage which players can fight on.
And isn't it funny how Bomberman and Solid Snake meet again?
They just love each other so much.
In fact, they meet again in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Because later that year, Snake would return as a fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In both Bomberman and Smash Bros., David Hayter was brought back to reprise his role. Isn't that sweet? You know why? Because Keith Sutherland, he doesn't care about Smash Bros.
In 2020, a reference to the Metal Gear appeared in Astro's Playroom. The game features a bot hiding under the iconic cardboard box. To think, we've done this whole video without talking about the cardboard box.
And there you have it, the complete history of Metal Gear, from its origins on the MSX2 computer,
which doesn't exist,
to its weird zombie survival spin-off on 8th generation hardware. Despite our consistent digging at Kojima, there is no denying that the man is a visionary, and without him, the Metal Gear series would not have been such a landmark franchise. The real question now is, where does the series go from here? Konami owns Metal Gear, however without Kojima, Metal Gear isn't really Metal Gear.
In the meantime, Kojima is currently working on a new project. And if you've been following all the conspiracy theories surrounding the mysterious indie game Abandoned, it could very well be a new Silent Hill.
Whatever the future holds, there is no denying that Metal Gear has earned its place in the pantheons of iconic video game franchises. So Solid Snake, we salute you.